Good morning. I'm Sharon Binkard, and South Meridian is my church home. Most of us are aware that the recent combination of the COVID-19 pandemic and the current political climate has taken a significant toll, not just on our physical health, our economy, our social structures, but also on our individual and collective mental health. As a therapist looking at this on a daily basis, I have deep concern about the amount of stress that many are struggling with, particularly as we approach November 3rd, Election Day. I'd like to offer a few thoughts to anchor us in the coming days, weeks, months. It's really tempting at these moments to say, I don't know what I'll do if this person is elected. I don't know what I'll do if this happens, if that happens. And to allow frustration and anxiety and even a sense of doom to grow as we wait. I'd like to invite you to this idea of deciding now, to consciously take higher ground, to decide ahead of time and not wait until you're in that moment to decide how you'll respond. No matter what the specific outcome is, no matter who is or isn't elected, no matter the chaos that may or may not ensue, I invite you to decide now to live well in your response, to stay grounded in your faith. We're currently living with a constant barrage of not just information, but encouragement to stay in a heightened state of alarm and fear. And even as believers, I think we easily forget, and we lose sight of our grounding in the God of the universe. I want to remind you this morning and remind myself that our God is the God of Isaiah 40:26, which beautifully tells us that each and every evening of our existence here, God brings out the starry hosts one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and his mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Our God is not surprised or shocked or overwhelmed or confused at what is happening, at what is going to happen, although understandably we are, and we often are. But in the next few minutes, I want you to remember and return to the solid ground that is the kingdom of God, the kingdom of God that remains alive and well within us and among us. Here's the first simple reminder for us. Our hope is not in an outcome. Our hope is ultimately not in the outcome of this election or any outcome in particular. There's no outcome of this election now or ever that has the power to fix our world, to fix our country, to fix our lives, to fix our hearts. By all means, live faithfully. Vote. Care about who's leading and what they stand for. Pray. Speak up. Love mercy. Do justly. I am not saying that it doesn't matter and don't care about it. It does matter and do care about it. This is part of what it means to live faithfully as believers here. What I am saying is don't get confused about where to ultimately place your hope. Our leaders will always be human beings. Our governments will always be human institutions with deep limitations. They were never meant to carry the full weight of our expectations, our hopes, our desires. Our hope cannot be ultimately in any particular outcome. Our hope is in Jesus, who is now and always will be present to us, within us, in his great resurrection power. The second reminder for myself, for you, is that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It is against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The minute we make the struggle primarily about other human beings, including those running for political office, we join the enemy in his scheme to get us to turn on each other, to get us to lose our sense of faith, hope, and love. We do have an enemy. We do have an enemy who wants to rob, kill, and destroy our faith, hope, and love for ourselves, for each other, for God. But the enemy is not each other. Martin Luther King Jr. famously said, "Somebody must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate and the chain of evil in the universe. And you do that by love." He went on to end this speech by saying, "I love you. I would rather die than hate you." So I invite myself back this morning to our solid ground in the kingdom of God. And as we approach November 3rd, the election, its results, the rest of this year and into next year, the reminder that our hope is not in an outcome and that our struggle is not against flesh and blood. We have an enemy and it's not each other. And ultimately to remind you of the great power of the love of God by which we are to be known as believers. May grace and peace be with you.